right, it's go time.
It's time for the show. So we've got a lot to talk about tonight. We've got Coach Frank Bennett from Chaminade High School. They finished second in the state yesterday, one of the best programs in the state of Missouri. I talked to him this afternoon. I'm going to play a couple of different parts of that interview. Talked to Coach Brett Hale at Potosi. I've known Brett forever. I know his mom and dad really well. Brett was an unbelievable player at Dexter back in the day. His dad's one of the all-time great coaches in the history of our state. I enjoy all of these talks that we have with these different coaches. I really like coaching with talked with Coach Hollifield the other day. I talked with Rob Heitman from Hogan Prep the other day. I thought that was fascinating because we don't get to talk to people from Kansas City a lot. And he just
right, really, a whole other part of the state right there.
Just really neat. But talking to Brett, he really hit on a couple of things that I think, as far as if you're a coach out there listening that's trying to build a program, he said a couple of things that were really, really, I thought, profound. So a lot of that, plus everybody's brackets are on fire. Nobody's bracket is
There's
in
not a good
shape.
one out there.
But I got to say this. I took a vacation day Friday. I always take off during the NCAA tournament because I like to stay home and watch basketball all day. So I thought, man, I'm going to stay home.
How's your boss feel about that? He must be a cool guy.
Well, yeah. Basically, I just asked myself, and I said, yes, you can do that. And so, I actually had planned to take Thursday and Friday, but Thursday I had a big budget meeting I could not miss. So I only got to take one of the days that I wanted to take. So my boss did tell me no on one day.
Right.
But I had just a wicked sinus infection set in Friday. I just want to tell the human race you're welcome because, Toby, as we know, my immune system is legendary. I don't get sick. I was famously hit by a car going well over 100 miles an hour. The doctor that checked me out after the wreck, multiple injuries, said that I was superhuman. Now, I'm not a person to argue with that doctor because he went to school for like 10 years to be able to make that claim. But this sinus infection was so bad. I've been on the couch for like 3 days. If this had set down on another person, it might have wiped out at least half of the species. I mean, it was that bad. So I'll kind of let you respond to that.
So you basically you built it up as the worst thing ever happened.
Yes.
In the recorded history of Earth.
I probably didn't even have a fever,
and it was probably level 2 of 10.
Yeah, it was, but I felt horrible, and it kind of put a little damper on
Well, I mean, you're only as tough as what you know.
So let's...
So to you, it could have been that bad.
It probably so. So let's throw out the Virginia upset because it's never happened and we're a 1-seed loss.
Amazing.
That's obviously the biggest upset we saw this weekend. But throwing that one out, is there one game that just jumps out at you in the bracket that you're just like, wow, never saw that one coming?
I mean, you can probably go to like 5 or 6, just boom,
but
boom,
I'm asking
boom.
You to pick one. Pick one.
Just one? So, like, gosh, I can't just take both Loyola games.
Yeah.
I can't take I could honestly I could see North Carolina getting beat today.
Me too.
The way they got beat was
Texas A&M's
really they've went to back-to-back national championships.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree.
That's tough to do. So I mean, I'm not going to put that one in there, especially if it was closer. I wouldn't even consider it. The one that Clemson has absolutely put it on Auburn, but I don't even think that one. Syracuse over Michigan State.
That's
You're
the one
probably
I would
going
pick.
to go there.
I would pick that one as upsetting just
is,
because I thought Michigan State could legitimately win it all.
Yeah. Mine is Loyola in Tennessee.
Yeah, and especially,
I wanted to say Nevada over Cincy, but
he got
Loyola.
that bounce at the end. There's just been so many.
Yeah.
There's been so many. So we're going to move it along here, and I want to we do this every week where we say, is this a JWT moment? Is this a just win today moment? Is this a moment that should be celebrated?
Right.
Or is this a moment where somebody deserves a technical foul in real life?
Are we going to tee you up?
Are we going to tee you up? And I put a series of videos out. They were on the website, and they're probably still up there if you want to go look at it, where we're looking at last-second shots. The most famous one being the Christian Laettner shot with Duke. They did not guard the inbounder. They let Grant Hill have a free throw at the pass there, and he threw like a 70-foot strike to Christian Laettner. That's one way to guard it, which the advantage with not guarding the inbounder is they have 4 people to catch the ball. You have 5 defenders. So you have an extra defender somewhere. And for those of you that haven't seen the video, go watch it because it's fascinating to watch.
Well, like you point out on there, what the extra defender does is unbelievable.
I've never noticed it before. He completely gets out of the way. And if he had,
do you think he thought time was up, or
I think
he didn't
was
want to foul?
Maybe didn't want to foul, but the level to which he got out of Leitner's way was I watched that play 1,000 times. I've never noticed it, but we show it in slow motion. So that's one way you use a 5th defender.
I think in the slow motion, if you really look close and read his lips, he says, "Good shot, Chris."
Probably so. Yeah. Probably so. And then the other one being the Valparaiso shot with Bryce Drew, the hook and ladder play, where Ole Miss did guard the ball. And I remember I was actually watching both of those games live when they happened. So there's different ways to do it. Now, obviously, there you're matched up one-on-one everywhere.
Right.
You don't have
and I think, like, what they done right there, where, the thing about guarding the ball is you can't let anything go over your head towards the basket.
Right.
So Valparaiso that was a great play.
It was a great pass.
What Ole Miss is doing, they're going to keep everything in front of you.
Right. That's it.
So the first catch was in front, technically. I mean, it was a deep catch, but it was in front. So Bryce Drew's defender kind of relaxed now, where Drew just took off, and now he got one with momentum. So, in a way, they took away what they wanted to take away, but it still backfired on them.
Yeah, and the point being, I put that video up the other day to show you can get beat if you guard the ball or if you play 5-on-4. You can get beat either way. It's always fun to second guess it, and like I said, go back and look at the execution of that play. Well, as I put that video up, then last night the Michigan shot happened, and so today I put that video up to show where and this is my question. Obviously, the kid makes a 35-foot shot with a hand in his face. So is that a JWT moment for that kid in Michigan? It's just a great shot. It's great execution.
Right.
Or do we tee up Houston by saying they should have guarded this play better?
For me, I'm teeing Houston up.
Really?
They should have guarded better. The whole time we were watching, I told them, put a guy on the ball.
Right.
Put a guy on the ball right now. I mean, yeah, you can lose both ways, as we mentioned. You talked about it, but I just think make that first pass as difficult as possible.
Yeah, I think that's number one. If you look at, yes, you have to make. Here's the point that I'm trying to make. There's 3.5 seconds left. In order for them to get this shot off, they need, number one, a clean pass. If you make the pass difficult, they probably can't get the shot. But in this particular play, they needed 2 clean passes.
Right.
And if you go watch the video, it shows where they did not guard the ball, meaning they were playing 5-on-4 in the backcourt there. And what happened was one of the defenders was guarding nothing at all. So
and to me, that's what happens. You end up guarding nothing, or you get in each other's way.
I think if you're going to do that, you have to say, everybody get a man, and we're going to put 2 people on this particular guy. I think that's the way you have to play it, and I think you have to switch everything because you can't.
How do you switch when you got 2 people guarding one guy?
Well, you just like say me and you were guarding this person. You would have, say, switch responsibility, and I'm going to stay with him no matter what because I might be playing over the top, something like that,
Yeah.
So there's just different ways to do it. I'm going to go the other way and say it's a JWT moment because the chances of making that shot are so slim. But I do agree with you. The way that they guarded that last play, I think that is a lesson for all coaches. If you go watch the film and we highlight it and circle it and all that stuff, just like we're at the whiteboard, where you say, right here is where you at least gave them the opportunity to even take that shot. So I would encourage everybody, like I said, it's on the website, justwintoday.com, if you go check it out. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to play part of this interview with Coach Frank Bennett. Never met Coach Bennett before. I reached out to him, said, hey, this is what we do. We'd love to talk to you. He was gracious, came on and talked. And, I mean, he's a really great guy, first of all. The entire interview I will throw up in the morning. But what I'm going to do is play 2 different parts of it right here. And this first part is where he's talking about kind of their offensive philosophy. And he makes a great reference in here where he's talking about Of course, Jason Tatum played there, who's
Right.
in the NBA and just tearing it up right now. But then they also have Jericho Helms, who is going to North Carolina State. He's one of the best players in the country. So
Right.
he's talking about how those guys are willing to give up shots and be a part of the system, and how he makes a statement in here. If Jason Tatum's willing to, kind of be a part of the system, then you really don't have much to say. And so
Right.
this is Coach Frank Bennett from Chaminade College Prep.
For those of our listeners and the fans around the state that have not had the chance to watch you play, if I were to drive to watch a Chaminade game, what's your style of play? What's your overall coaching philosophy?
Yeah, I believe in giving guys a lot of freedom, and then trying to rein them in based upon where they're at. So offensively, we run motion, and it allows our guys to, especially the guys that can score at all three levels, to do so. It capitalizes on what they already know, and it's hard to scout. It's hard to defend, and it's something that obviously takes patience, and you have to have guys that are committed to the team concept, or else it won't work. And that's why, especially the past 2 years, we've been really successful with it. Because our top guys bought into it, and it made it easier for all the other guys.
And I think that, you guys are obviously famous for your alumni, a Brad Beal, a Jason Tatum, a David Lee. Do you think that philosophy is part of your player development there, while the guys seem to keep getting better every year?
Yeah, I mean, it's a non-negotiable. You have to be willing to develop as an individual, but also buy into the team concept, or else it just doesn't work, And that kind of, that just is just what I believe in. I think that even, if Jason Tatum can buy into the team concept, no one else has any excuses, So
That's right.
So with that being said, I think, our seniors this year have done a fantastic job of doing so. Jericho Helms was phenomenal. I mean, he shared the ball. He would facilitate. He was always trying to look to get other people involved, but also knew when it was time for him to put the pedal to the metal and try and take over the game. So, I'm the lucky guy that gets to work with such humble and great teammates. It just makes coaching a lot easier when guys are like that.
And you just mentioned Jericho Helms going to North Carolina State. I know when I talked to Coach Hollifield, we spoke the other day, and he just raved about that kid and was just talking about not only, I mean, obviously physically he's gifted. He's got a lot of God-given talent. But on top of that, Coach Hollifield just raved about how smart he was as a player and his competitive fire. And that's what you hear everybody say about Helms. Is like, oh, he'll go guard, this guy, that guy. He'll just take on the defensive assignment, and how competitive of a kid he is. So give me your best Jericho Helms story.
Yeah, I mean, the stories that I will never forget about Jericho circles around, just being competitive. He was always a guy that wanted to guard Jason Tatum when he was here, because Jericho was a sophomore when he was a senior, and he was a freshman, obviously, when he was a junior. So that's one of the reasons why he's fearless. Just every single day in practice as an underclassman, he would just go head to head with Jason, and not back down, both offensively and defensively. And then as an upperclassman, he would return the favor to some of the younger classmen, which was awesome. And I just think that with a guy like Jericho, when his career is all said and done, there will be plenty of young guys that will be better because of it, and that's the whole goal, to make sure that your program's not just circled around one or two guys. It's actually a living organization that passes tradition and winning habits down, and he's been instrumental to it.
And that was the first part of my talk with Coach Bennett. And, it's always nice, and I'm not accusing him of name dropping here, because, he's obviously coached those guys and has a relationship with them. But it's always nice when, you can talk about a guy that's as good as Helms. I mean, and everybody who I've talked to about him that's seen him play and, that's kind of evaluated him, they just go on and on about what a competitor he is and how smart a player he is. to be a young kid and coming up against Jason Tatum, who's one of the best young players in the NBA right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's just a really neat story.
Yeah, I thought it's pretty fascinating. And, just the amount of talent that they have come through there is really amazing. And, it's one thing to have all that talent, but he gets it to work year in and year out. So, they're working hard and doing a really good job. And I thought it was neat how he talks about the alumni helping the younger kids, and not just that, the upperclassmen also helping the underclassmen.
Well, and I think that's one of the reasons that they've he makes a great point about everybody buying into the system. I mean, I've seen it 100 times where you've got a lot of talent. You can't get that talent to gel together, and they've done a great job of that. So this is the second part of my talk with him. And like I said, if you want to hear the entire interview, that will be tomorrow morning. I'll put the whole thing up so you can. It's probably about 15 minutes long. But this is the second part of the talk that I had with him, where he's talking about Courtney Ramey, and this is the Courtney Ramey Come Home to Mizzou show. And I want to say this: if I thought Ramey would be better off somewhere else, I would say it. Like I don't owe any favors to Mizzou or to Conzo Martin or anybody else. I've actually wrote Coach Martin a handwritten note. I live about 2 miles from Mizzou Arena. I've personally asked him to, either A, come on and talk with us, or B, hey, let me come by and watch a practice. I'm 2 miles down the street. I've actually coached in your gym, in your locker room.
Right.
Can I come and watch a practice? He's never even responded, so I guess they're busy. But, my point is they don't owe me any favors, but I really believe that Ramey to Mizzou right now, Mizzou is on the cusp of building something special. And, as a Mizzou fan, I think he's got a chance to come here right now and really be the guy that, as they really hit that next level of being, Sweet 16, Final Four type good.
Right.
You could be a legend in the state of Missouri if you were to come now. So this is the second part of that interview where Coach Bennett just talks about trying to get ready to play against a guy as good as Courtney Ramey.
What's it like preparing for a guard as dynamic as Courtney Ramey? I mean, you're from the St. Louis area. You're familiar with Ramey. The whole state has watched this kid grow up. I bet all of you in the area are glad he's graduating. Kind of one of those things. Like, get this guy out of here already. It seems like he's been playing for a decade. But how good is he? And what was kind of your preparation for Courtney?
Yeah, you just want to make life as difficult as possible. So limiting his catches, making his catches tough, making him catch outside of where he's comfortable, try and make him play off the ball. And then on the offensive side, try and go at him as many times as possible so he can get in foul trouble, which I thought we did a pretty good job of.
Absolutely, yes.
But you know, you got to make a guy like that work, and then also understand that he's going to have an impact on the game. So don't let that have an adverse reaction to you as a player. Just understand, he's obviously one of the best players in the country, so he's going to score points. He's going to facilitate. He's going to make plays, and just, when he does, just understand that we want him to make difficult plays. We don't want him to make, get wide open looks or put him at the foul line, which we did a mediocre job of. So, but that's the game plan, and obviously in preparation for him, you have to take into consideration that he's not a one-man show. They've got other guys that you have to prepare for as well. But
absolutely,
which makes it difficult. So.
Yeah. So what's next for your program? I know you lose a good group of seniors, but what's next for Chaminade?
Well, we take a week off, and then we're back in the weight room, man. I mean, it's just there's no secret to what we do. We try and do what I know a lot of coaches are doing around here. We you just got to work. You really do, and with the guys that were down at state, some of them are spoiled because that's all they know. Jericho Helms, that's all he knows are Final Fours. And so with that being said, I think a lot of our guys, go through a transitional period where they come to realize how much the guys in front of them actually did, and so we don't have time to waste for our guys to figure that out in the winter time. We have to prep for it now. So they'll enjoy a week off, and then we're back at work, man.
I love it. I mean, that's how it has to be. If you're going to get better, there's no time for time off. And so,
that's right.
Right. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking a second to do this, and hopefully we can do it again.
Appreciate you having me.
Hey.
Whenever I can, please let me know.
Okay, will do. Thank you so much, Coach.
Thank you.
And again, that was Coach Frank Bennett of Chaminade College Prep. And Toby, does that sound familiar at all? You get off the bus from state and you say,
"Hey, now you just rest up, and then we're going again."
Yeah,
I loved it.
You got a week, and then be back in here. And so,
and I mean, it's like when you try to tell people that don't understand that level of success, where, like he said, Jericho Helms knows nothing but Final Fours. You know, kids like when I was young, in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, watching those Bell City teams go to state, it's like you're supposed to go. And then the same way at Scott Central and all this stuff. So, like, to try to explain to people just how much we played ball and, like, how we didn't take breaks and there was no time off, they don't really understand it. And it's like, if Jericho Helms only takes a week off, then what are you doing taking more than a week off? Because you're already way behind.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you know, and you know this is a fact. I mean, we would get off the bus from winning the state championship. The bus would pull in the parking lot. I would stand up, and I would tell you guys, matter of fact, not being funny, it was not a joke. Hey, let's take a week off, and then I'll see you guys, like, just a matter of fact, like, we're taking a week off. You got a week off. You earned it.
And sometimes it was like you had to make us take a week off. Like, guys, go rest, take your week off. But, like, we wanted to be there too, you know. So
and it's not the same. We didn't come back and practice. It's not the same thing. We would come back and, like he said, you start your there's a time and a season for everything, and this is the time of the year where you want to start to work on yourself individually. You know, get your body right. You know, start working on some of those individual things in your game. Especially put up a lot of shots. I mean, because that's the main thing guys need to be doing this time of year, lifting weights and getting up a lot of shots. But I really enjoyed talking to him, and I know that in a lot of parts of the states, I don't want to get into the whole public-private charter school debate and all that stuff. You know, those guys work really hard too, and you know, I know there's a perception that they just get players or whatever. You know, but to listen to him talk and to spend a little time on the phone with him. And like I said, then talking with Coach Heitman, you know, they're at a charter school in Kansas City. Talked to him the other day, and, you know, just to hear they don't have any home games. They really don't even have a gym to practice in. You know, like to listen to him tell some of the stories that he told, you know, it's really neat to get a perspective from other coaches around the state. So, again. And
it's like we've always said, too, there's advantages and disadvantages of every place.
Of every job.
At the small schools, you don't have the same numbers or the same athletes or, you know, maybe the facilities. You might only have 2 basketball goals. And then you get up in bigger schools, you might have more players that are way better talent and size. But, you know, you're giving up something, too. So, I mean, you may look at it like, yeah, Chaminade's got all these players, but at the same time, they're putting the work in.
Oh, absolutely.
Like he said, a week off.
Yeah.
And they're back at it. They're in the weight room already.
I've got a lot of respect for that, and like I said, I really enjoyed getting a minute to talk with him. That whole interview will be up about 7 o'clock in the morning. This thing auto-loads it, so I've got it scheduled. It's going to hit about 7 o'clock in the morning. So kind of moving on to the next topic here, we're going to talk a little bit with Brett Hale. Brett Hale, first of all, one of the best players that I ever coached against. Brett was an incredible player, and this entire interview will also be up in the morning. I've got 2 different parts queued up and ready to go here that, you know, some of the things Brett and I talked about. First of all, Brett's mother was a teacher at Scott County Central, and she's the only teacher in my life that ever gave me, I think, a C in anything. Long story short, she knew that I was done with my project. She knew that I had an A in her class, but she knew that I had all the work sitting in a folder, and the last day of the semester I hadn't turned it in yet. And so she stood at the back door of the gym. We had 7th hour PE, and Brett Hale's mother, Nancy, she stood down there at the door with my folder in her hand. And if she's listening to this, she's laughing right now because she remembers what she did. But she stood there, and she waited for the bell to ring. And then she said, "David, come here." So I went running over there, and she said, "Did you forget something?" And it was the day we had to turn this in. And I had it done weeks ago, but for whatever reason, I just didn't turn it in. It was just sitting in a folder in her room. And so she took that, and she did not give me points for this project, and it knocked me down to like a C on the project. I still ended up getting a good grade for the course or whatever, but she taught me a lesson there. I never forgot to turn in a homework assignment again for the rest of my life. That was in ninth grade. It was in ninth grade, and it would have been really easy for her to call me over in the middle of that and say, hey, where's your work? Go get it, turn it in. She didn't do that. And she taught me a lesson. Yeah, she's one of my favorite teachers I ever had. That was Brett's mother. And to be honest, the whole time she was my teacher at Scott Central, I had no idea that Paul Hale was her husband. I had no idea she had a son that was a good ball player. I had no clue at all. I was oblivious. I just liked Miss Hale. She was a really good teacher. And so anyway, grow up, and then I become a coach and get to coach against Brett's dad. And Brett was probably the first really, really good player that I ever coached against. I tell a story somewhere in this interview. I'm not going to play it tonight, but Brett hit a shot from right in front of my coaching box, my rookie year coaching, the first year that I was a head coach. He pulled up from right in front of me, probably 30-foot jumper plus. You know, he was such a good player, and those teams were such good teams that Paul Hale had back at Bernie and Dexter. And I think a lot of people, kind of forget, and that's what I said, when we started the show. There's some stuff in here for coaches who are trying to build a program. People forget how good Dexter was, and Greg Hollifield and I talked about this this week when we did our interview. It can happen anywhere. You can build a great program anywhere, and Paul Hale is proof of that. What he did at Bernie was incredible. He went to Dexter, which was not a basketball school. What he did there was incredible. And then look what he did at Cape Notre Dame. People forget when he got to Cape Notre Dame, they were a little down,
Right.
He not only took them to a couple Final Fours, he won a state title, but, his system, his way of doing things, there's something to be said about that. For the people that don't remember watching him play, I would compare it very favorably to like the good North Carolina teams look like. Very simple offense, but you just can't stop them from scoring. They just run down your throat. They get it inside, and they shoot threes. Just really balanced offense. And, of course, they always ran that matchup press and that matchup zone, and he did that as good as anybody. I think of all the matchup zone coaches, and, of course, Greg Hollifield being one right now, I don't think anybody taught it as well as Paul Hale did. He was probably the guru, at least in that part of the state. And so I'm going to play this with Brett. And, for those of you that are just starting out, or maybe here we are in the off season and you're looking for an idea to go into next year with, I think Brett gives you something really good here. And if you're a coach who's maybe been doing this a while, like I said, and you're just kind of looking for a refresher, man, I'm telling you, this was really, really good. So I'm going to let it play.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we were the 1 seed. I think Donovan may have even been the 4. I think.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to explain a little context here, Toby, on this first comment that he makes.
Okay, yeah,
we were talking about to start out here how tough that district was when he was growing up. For people that don't remember, Dexter was 25-0. They got beat in the district, and the team that actually beat them was Donovan. And no, I'm sorry, it was Charleston. Charleston beat them, and I think Charleston was the 4 seed. And then Donovan and New Madrid played on the other side. Donovan was the other favored team in that district. There were 4 teams in that district that probably could have won a state championship that year. There were 4 in that one district. So that's kind of the first part of what we start talking about here, just so people can kind of understand the context of this conversation.
We played them maybe in the semis. But there were some really good teams. And my junior year, I think in that district, we didn't even play New Madrid in the regular season, which was kind of unfortunate. Now, my senior year, we played them, but that was a great district. And I think, if we could have beaten New Madrid, I think we might have been able to do it too. But it was just one of those things where 2 of the best teams, if not the best teams, were in the same district, and that happens. That's the way it's set up, and it is what it is. you just live with it, and that's what it is.
Do you think that helped make your group better when you were growing up? Because you know how it is in Southeast Missouri. Like when you guys were coming along, all of us coaches, I was just starting to coach at the time, but we all heard, hey, Paul Hale's got a son, and that group of kids that he's coming up with, they're really good. It's kind of like, like Kipler's group at New Madrid, that really good New Madrid group. Everybody saw them coming. Everybody knew they were going to be good. And so, did that help make you guys better, do you think, because you could kind of look around you, you knew you had to compete, because the talent was just so great in Southeast Missouri at that time?
I think so. As kids, you're a little short-sighted sometimes, but I think we knew that we had to be really good if we were gonna do anything. And we worked at it so hard, and I kind of just looking back at it, thinking of coaching my kids now, and just how much time we really put into it. And I didn't think it was abnormal back then. It was just what we did. But that it probably is a little bit abnormal how much time we spent and how much basketball we played. Just I think that's why we were good. We weren't gonna jump out of the gym and be super quicker than everybody else. We just we knew how to play, and we played a lot together. But the area was very good. It still is. Southeast Missouri basketball is awesome. I don't get to play against too many. We played Cape Central this year. I think that was about the only team and that we played from down there, and they were very good. But
they were,
they Southeast Missouri basketball is got a great tradition, and it's just so tough. Year in and year out, there's some great teams.
There are, and so your dad's style, for people that don't remember or just don't know, we've got people all over the state that listen to this, but Paul Hale was famous for that matchup press, that matchup zone, 2-2-1. It was a 2-2-1, but if you talk to your dad, which I talked to him a lot through the years, he would always say it's just a press. Like it really didn't have a specific alignment. It was just a matchup. And now Greg Hollifield has taken some of those same principles, and he's doing such a good job at cycling with it. So just talk a little bit about his style and his philosophy, and then how much of that do you use where you're at now?
Yeah, I was fortunate. He actually coached us in junior and in the middle school.
Right.
So we played that way since we were, sixth graders. It was just how we were going to play. We were going to press and play matchup zone, and I don't think we played up possession of man in my whole career.
Let me pause you right there, because I want to ask you that. I think that's a profound coaching point that you just made. Is if you go from your dad to like the Ronnie Cooksons to the Hollifield, what he's doing now at Sykeston, Charleston is another example. I think all the great programs have that kind of continuity. Like you said, you started when you were so young. How important was that part of it?
Oh, I think that was huge. By the time we were, freshmen, all the teaching was done. I mean, I know that sounds kind of stupid, but, when we went to practice, we knew what we were doing. Practice was a lot of scrimmage and a lot of getting shape and a lot of shooting and that kind of thing. But as far as teaching concepts, it wasn't huge because we'd just done it forever. Everybody was on the same page because we'd been doing it since we could remember. We just thought that was the way basketball was played, because that was just how we played. So, I think that continuity is huge, and Sykeston's been a good example of it. Some of those teams, and a story about Sykeston, I went to a clinic when I was coaching at Farmington. I think it was at Scott Central, actually. And my dad was talking, and he was talking about the matchup zone and 2-2-1 press and that kind of thing. And Coach Holyfield, and I just thought this was awesome because Sykeston had such a great program. I bet Coach Holyfield asked 30 minutes worth of questions to my dad, and I think he drew a lot of concepts from that, and they've taken it to a really high level this year in and year out. They're so good playing that style. So I really enjoy watching them play, and he's just done a great job.
And that was like I said, I think there's some stuff in there for all coaches, but especially if you're at the point of wanting to build a program. So I'll kind of let you talk a little bit about that, Tom.
Well, you hit on it too when you paused him for a minute. And when he said it, I thought, well, there it is. When he talked about how growing up they played that way from when they were little kids to all the way when they got in high school. And I think, like playing for you, that's why we were so good, because that's what we had done. By the time,
he said by the time we got to ninth grade started, the teaching was over. I thought that was, not that there was no teaching left, but I mean, it's like you weren't
trying to learn any huge concepts.
Right.
You already knew, and like you would always tell us, like, or you would always say it, by the time we got 9th, 10th grade, we've done seen about every way people are going to try to beat this press. So we know where it's coming from and what you're going to do and how to adjust and how to move and all that stuff. And it sounds really simple, but he kept saying that the continuity and, we all move together. And Coach Hollifield talked about it the other day too, how it's so important in his program where they're doing it in 7th grade, 8th grade, freshman team, JV, varsity, everybody is they're doing it all the way through. And another thing that makes that so important is how he talked about they showed up to practice and they knew what they were going to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Like that sounds like nothing, but that's huge because, like it's routine now. Like it's like clockwork, and they know what they're going to do and they're going to go do it as hard as they can. And to me, like that just shows their greatness too, to never get bored of doing the same thing over and over. They just kept trying to find ways to be better at it. That's, that shows why they were so good.
And I thought Coach Hollifield made a great comment the other day when he talked about his high school coach and how much he looked forward to going to practice every day.
Right.
And I know that, just through the course of our talk today, Brett kind of said the same thing, like how they went to practice and he made the comment they never ran a sprint. He can't remember ever really running a sprint, which is a little bit different than what we did. But, the point that he was making was they did it a different way. That's the beautiful thing about this game. There's so many different ways to play it and play it well. But they had a system there to where, I'm telling you, if you saw this group play, to put them in Southeast Missouri this year, if they would not have been the best team in Southeast Missouri, I would have said that, the only teams that could have played with them would have probably been Sykeston and Charleston. They were on that level or maybe better. Their personnel may have just been better because they had so much size. I mean, when he was a junior and they had the Mattingly kid, Mattingly was about 6'5" or 6'6", and he was a post player. He was good. And then you had Brett, 6'2", 6'3", and then you had Shannon Wright, who's about 6'6", and Shannon Wright was like the queen on the chessboard. Like you could move him in any direction.
Right.
Shannon could be your point guard. He could be your small forward. He could be your power forward. I mean, he was just a phenomenal athlete, and they had other players too. And I'm telling you, they were so good. But just to watch them play was just beautiful. I mean, the way they moved the ball, their offensive philosophy, and that kind of leads me into the next part of the interview that I've got here with Brett, where I ask him a little bit about their offensive philosophy, and he makes another really good point in here about something that his dad did during practice that I think is something that coaches should be able to take from this. So I'm gonna let this one play.
Talk about maybe your dad's offensive philosophy. I remember trying to guard your dad's teams even as I got older as a coach and just going, what he did was so simple. Like you knew what he was going to do. But you guys were so good at the execution, and I think that's probably because of what you're saying with all the scrimmage and the continuity that you guys had playing together. But in general, for the people that never got to see you guys play, what was your overall offensive philosophy?
Well, it was based on running in lanes and that kind of thing. We played no matter what kind of personnel, and I think he always has. He plays with 3 guards and 2 posts, and that's just the way he does. If he doesn't have 2 posts, he just makes one. It really is just based on turning that defense into quick offense and being in the right spots. And I think one of the most underrated things that he does as a coach is just coach shooting. His teams, especially our team and his teams at Notre Dame and all that, just really shot the ball well.
He did,
and he really coaches shooting. I think a lot of coaches don't do that. We go through. You're going to do these shooting drills and you're going to get shots up, but are you really coaching shooting? And I think he consistently coached us how to shoot the ball and corrected mistakes and that kind of thing. And but as far as offensively, it started with a break. And really, I know this sounds kind of crazy, because we had such good guards, but his offense is really post-centered.
It is. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, and it's got to go into the post and those post pick and seal and high-low stuff. And as far as guards, we just get to an open spot and keep moving and throw the ball inside and it comes back to us. And that's kind of his philosophy is really he wants to throw the ball inside, and those post guys have to be able to score and pass the ball and that kind of thing. So, but it's a really post-centered offense. It's kind of a patterned kind of thing, but that's just how we played. It's get down the floor and take good shots and throw the ball inside. We had no set plays. We didn't run any sets besides an out-of-bounds play. It was just we were just consistent and fundamentally sound, and I always thought we really shot the ball well.
Yeah, and I remember that's a great point about people would remember you guys as being this three-point shooting team, and you were. But what I remember is trying to guard you guys and the ball coming up, like you said, flying down the floor, and your dad was so good at getting the defense to play like on one side of the floor because you were so afraid of the ball going inside. And so once that happened, I thought you guys were maybe the best team that I ever coached against as far as skip passing. Like you could get the ball on one side of the floor and see where that help was diving in from. And, okay, if you're going to take the post away, then I'm going to skip it over there to that guy. And you guys were so good at that.
Oh, yeah, and that's something that we were coached. We worked skip passing a lot. And, it's just one of those things. We were fortunate. Like I said, we had a lot of guys that can shoot it, and the guys that came off the bench could shoot it. Our post guys were always pretty good. Scott Mattingly was a good scorer, and then Chris Carr was a year younger than us, but he was a pretty good player too. And when you got a guy in the post that can put up points, I think as a guard, that's just that's cake for you. That makes your job so much easier. When there's some post guy that they have to really help around, guards can really have a field day, I think.
I agree. And speaking of having a field day, I mean, you're one of the better shooters that's ever come out of that part of the state. I've seen you have just some monster games. If you could tell our people listening to this, what's the hottest that you ever got, or can you tell a story about one game where you just were on fire?
Oh, I don't know. I had a few, but, the one I remember was actually against Twin Rivers. It was at Twin Rivers, and I think I was a junior. And we came out, and I think, I can't remember the exact score, but it seemed like we were down about 20-0 to start the game. I mean, it was just we were in trouble, and I just really got super hot, and I think I scored 44, but they were all from quarter 2 on, and it just seemed like everything I threw up went in. There was a couple nights like that, but that's the one that I remember just because I felt like I took some tough shots and probably shots I shouldn't have shot, but they were just all going in. And that's, I feel like, probably the hottest I've ever been. And it was a close game, and Twin Rivers had a good team. But
they did. They did.
And I just remember being down so many points. And it seemed like maybe I remember that one because the points mattered a little bit more.
Sure.
But, I think that was the one that kind of sticks out in my mind, which is kind of a random regular season game. But I, for some reason, remember that one.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you're one of the first guys that I can remember, whenever I was going through college and just starting to coach and wanting to get in a car and I want to drive and watch a good game tonight. And I can think of at least 2 or 3 times that I was going to watch Dexter play that night, because you guys were just that fun to watch. And I always felt like I got my money's worth, just so you know. So you guys,
well, that's good.
you guys were fun to watch. And so, hey, Coach, I appreciate you taking a second to do this. Please tell your mom and dad I said hello. I know both your parents well. And,
absolutely.
Best of luck, and we'll try to do this again.
All right.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And that was the rest of my talk there with Coach Hale, Brett Hale at Potosi. And like I said, just, one of the really, really good players that I ever got to coach against. And just what he talked about, the way his dad coached shooting. You and I talk about that a lot, Toby, so I'll kind of let you take that one.
Well, I'll tell you one thing first that I thought was really cool, and this is both of them, Coach Bennett and Coach Hale, that, like the way they played, like the way Chaminade plays now and how Brett said he played in high school is offensively, guys played.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really have any sets. They didn't have plays. They just went and made plays. And, I thought it was cool the way he talked about we really tried to work it in to a post player. So they were really playing inside out. They were kind of doing what's going on now with, I guess some 4 out, 1 in, or 3 out, 2 in stuff. And
I want to say this. They would have been a team back then, because you're thinking this is back in like 2000, 2001. Okay, so this has been a few years ago. At the time, they were seen as like the Golden State Warriors now. Like they're shooting all these threes and they're doing.
And I think what they did that made them so successful at it that a lot of teams nowadays are trying to do that stuff and get a quick 3 or an open 3 or take one fast. What he said there is they worked it in first.
That's right.
They try. I always tell my kids, get a paint touch, make the ball touch the paint, and then go inside out. That's a real, as a shooter, I love that shot. Like you're catching one, your man helps down to guard the post player, and you got Caleb Johnson kicking one out to you, and you're wide open.
And the thing is, and I've always told you guys this when I coached you, is we called it the box. Anything inside of 10 feet. If the ball goes into the box down there, the games are still right now won and lost inside that box. Because the teams that get down in that part of the floor are getting easy shots. The teams that get down in that part of the floor are getting free throws. Free throws, especially at the high school level, means somebody's drawing fouls, and it means somebody's sitting on the bench. Like we haven't even talked about the Class 5 state championship game where they had the JV players in at the end of the game. They seriously had a golfer had to come off the bench. One of the golfers had to come in and play at the end of the game because 8 guys fouled out in the Class 5 state final. So fouls do matter.
That's reminiscent of last week in the Class 3 state championship game.
Exactly.
And so, refs taking over. But, and talking about fouls, especially lower level games, Class 1 and 2, and even in Class 3, you get the right guy in foul trouble.
Well, look what happened in Class 5. When Ramey, they're up 17 or whatever, and Ramey fouls out with 4 minutes to go.
Right.
That thing got down to a 3-point game. Chaminade almost came back and beat them because
one guy makes a huge difference.
It makes a huge difference. That's right.
And to me, and we're talking about these fouls, man, they got to be really good fouls. And I don't want to say high schoolers need superstar calls or let them get away. Michael Jordan ain't gonna foul out in the playoff game,
right?
Most likely, they know. The rest know we got to keep him in there. So if it's touchy, don't call it on Mike,
right?
And but in the Class 4 state champion, or I'm sorry, the fourth place game, Fred Thatch fouls out with 2 minutes. And I didn't watch the game. I didn't see what happened, but 2 minutes to go, one of the best players to ever do it. Yeah. He fouls out with 2 minutes left. That game goes to overtime. And then, like you're talking about, Ramey fouls out with, 4 minutes to go. I mean, that's huge calls right there.
And I don't want to get on the referees again because we did this last week, but it had better been a felony. That's all I'm saying. If what Ramey did was a felony or what Thatch did was a felony, okay, you can call it. But if it's not and there's a lot of bumping, we're at the Final Four. Let these guys play. It costs $9 to get in here. Let them play. That's all I'm saying.
And it's like you would always say, we tell the kids preparing for a district tournament or a district championship game, that ain't going to be a foul in the district championship game. The refs are going to make you win.
Yeah, and
they're not going to help you.
I give Coach Bennett a ton of credit. We didn't get into the officiating a whole lot, but we did talk about it some. And he took the high road and the answers that he gave. I mean, what he said was true. You just have to adjust.
Right.
And so you got a little feedback there in your background. Okay, I think you got it straightened out there. So basically, I want to pause real quick and just breaking news. I'm not a journalist. That's what I tell everybody that we do this. I'm not a journalist. But while the interview was playing, I was just scrolling Twitter, and I just saw where Coach Seth Thomas of Jamestown is going to take the job at South Callaway. And
wow.
So, yeah, he's leaving for greener pastures. And for those of you that don't know South Callaway, I know their girls program is a powerhouse. Their boys program has been really good. But South Callaway is also in the district where the nuclear power plant's at. So put 2 and 2 together about what their salary schedule looks like. It's pretty good. And so Seth Thomas is moving on up in the world. So congratulations to him.
Good for him.
He's a really good coach, and he's moving on there to South Callaway, which means Jamestown will be looking for a basketball coach. So we'll see what happens there. That's our neighbor where I'm superintendent at. So they had a really good team in Class 1 this year. But getting back to what Brett said, I think, like we were talking about, getting that ball down in the box, getting that ball down inside of 10 feet, get those layups, get those free throws. I don't want to hear this nonsense about, well, threes are worth more than two, because if you make 35% of your threes, it's worth more than making 50% of your twos. I'm talking about getting layups, like down in the box where –
look at Charleston.
If we get fouled, we're going to make 70, 80% of our free throws. If we get the ball down in there, we're going to finish 60, 70, 80% if we're any good. So I want to see you out-convert us from the three-point line there. Now, against a good defensive team, they're going to load up the box, and they're going to make it hard for you to score in there, which is where you kick it out and you get open threes. So,
and like you're saying, though, for people to think that the three is greater than the two, like a layup, the three is greater than a layup or whatever. I mean, that's just – if you ever watch where they do the game and you put a minute on the clock or something and you shoot a layup, it's worth 2 points. You shoot a free throw, it's worth 3, and the three-pointer's worth 4, and the half-court shot's worth 5, and 2 kids go at it head-to-head, and who's going to make the most points in this minute? A lot of times you'll see one kid think, oh, the shot out there is worth more, so I'm going to go shoot those. And you'll see the smart kid just stand there and make those little one-point layups. Boom, 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 and make a ton of them and end up winning because they took the easier shot. I mean, that's just wisdom.
And again, I mean, we know that, mathematically, that formula, it looks good on paper, and especially maybe at the NBA level, whatever. But we're talking
those guys can shoot, though.
We're talking about high school basketball. I still think Brett is right on the money with what he said about they started to play inside, and then they looked, like he said, that's when the guards can eat. That's what he said, So, and he's right. I mean, they had shooters, they had post players, and like I said in the beginning of that interview, just the balance that Paul Hale's teams played with was really fun to watch. I mean, they were a fun team to watch. And back to
what we were talking about with both of those coaches too, and how they said, their players just play. They didn't really call plays. They let them kind of do their own thing and get in the flow of it. And they also talked about how much their guys played ball.
Yes.
And especially with those Dexter groups, where those kids are growing up together, probably playing 20, 25 games a year in 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. Then they get to 7th, 8th, and they just play a ton of ball to where you can't just go out there with any old team and say, all right, guys, go make plays. Like, you got to build it through practice, and plus the continuity, like he talked about with the press. It's the same thing in offense. And those guys were comfortable with each other and had done it enough and long enough to where it really benefited them.
Yeah, and like I said, so I appreciate both of those guys taking a minute to talk to us. The full interview for both coaches, Coach Paul Bennett at Chaminade and Coach Brett Hale at Potosi, they will both be, the full interview will be up in the morning. Right now we're looking at the NCAA tournament, and it looks like West Virginia is about to tip off. They're my favorite team to watch in this tournament just because they do press. And so
they get after you.
They do get after you. And
but
so,
I think that could hurt them today going against Marshall, because Marshall, we talked about the three. Marshall's going to play some quick basketball. They're going to get a lot of shots up. That's our boy Mike D's older brother. I don't know how that works, but they're going to play. And I think that press, as long as, they break the initial pressure, it could actually turn around and favor Marshall a little bit, because they're going to get a lot of open looks.
I think you're right, but I think vice versa. I think if you play in fear of that style,
right.
Basketball is a game. It's like who can attack the other one and knock you off your feet a little bit. So that's what Marshall, what they do to you is they attack you.
Mm-hmm.
They get you in broken court situations, 3-on-2, drive and kick, help and recover type situations where they've always got an open shooter somewhere. Whereas West Virginia is like, you know what? We're going to put you in 3-on-2 and 2-on-1 type of trap situation. So I agree with you. It could backfire, but it could also spring West Virginia loose for some buckets.
Yeah.
And they don't shoot the ball as well, so they need that. They need that to kick in. So.
And Marshall probably hadn't seen pressure. Like, West Virginia's going to put on them. So their legs might get a little tired. And,
yeah, I think
they might force shots or shoot them quicker than they're used to. So it definitely worked both ways.
Yeah, I think all basketball is just can you control the ball? Like if I can dictate to you, if I'm guarding you and I can pressure you, which we know would be the case, that would be a fact. So if I'm guarding you and pressuring you, then it lets everybody else. They don't have to help as much, and I just think that Marshall's got to find one person they can break down. Bottom line, they got to find one matchup that favors them. I don't know that they'll find one because West Virginia.
Well, they're going to go to Elmore, and Elmore's going to put their best, or he's going to be guarded by West Virginia's best player. So.
Exactly, yeah, and I just think that Javon Carter, the best player. I think that he is.
He's a junkyard dog.
He is, and I think he's the one guy that may be able to just kind of blow up that whole system that they're trying to play.
Right.
And so, but yeah, this was a good week. Like I said, we had Coach Heitman from Hogan Prep on. We had Coach Hollifield from Sykeston on. We did our bracket challenge, which the whole thing has gone up in flames. I don't know who's going to win or who's going to lose. I just know that everybody's going to score poorly. So,
oh my gosh, yeah.
And so
it's going to be an all-time low in total points on the ESPN tournament challenge.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And so, that's the thing about it. I just hope that, I hope that everybody has fun doing it because, like you just said, they're not going to score well. It's just not going to be the case. But yeah, that'll do it for tonight.
Well, real quick, I'm going to throw out there that Team Toby is currently in the lead against Team David in our head-to-head matchup.
I wanted to get off the air before you said that.
Well, I wasn't going to let you. You're going to try to escape. And anybody that's on the app and looking, you won't see my team on there, but I promise my math is right. I figured it all up.
Right.
And,
right. So basically all I heard you say was, I'm going to hit you with the Nancy Hale rule. You didn't turn your homework in on time.
Didn't turn the homework in, but still going to get full credit when I win this thing. But it's going to be tough because 2 of my Final Four teams are already out of it.
Right.
2 are still in and got a good shot at getting there. But I got Mizzou winning the whole thing, and that's obviously not going to happen. But like we said earlier, they're on the cusp of doing something, and the right player may be getting that right guard in there.
If they get Ramey, and they have Watson coming in, Watson is a plug-in day one starting 2 guard, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think Ramey can really control the game. He's just so versatile. He's a point guard,
right?
And he can get buckets too.
Well,
and he plays hard. He'll guard.
He's 6'3", 6'4".
Big, yeah.
He's a big guard. He's a great handler. The way that Coach Martin has his guys defend, I think you put 2 athletes of the caliber of Watson and Ramey next to the guys that we already have coming back.
Yeah.
And, we'll wait and see what happens with Michael and Jonte. There's an article on the site right now kind of making the case for Michael to stay.
Could you imagine that?
Oh, my goodness gracious. I mean.
Hey, next year's draft is weaker.
It is weaker.
Somebody asked me the other day if he'd stay, and I said, well,
and that's the
next
point
year's draft is weaker.
That's the point that the article makes is if he comes out and he's the number 5 pick this year, his guaranteed money is just about $15 million a year. If he comes out next year as the number 1 pick, it's over $25 million. So, being the 5th or 6th pick this year is going to, it's going to slow him down. And then not only that, where you get picked at, if I were him, and you have to go read the whole article to see what this says. If I were him, I would go through the process. I would try to get healthy and go through my workouts without declaring an agent. Because you can always pull your name back out. I would see who's picking. Because if I'm going to get picked in the top 3, I'm going. I don't care who's picking me. But if I'm going to get picked in the top 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to Sacramento.
That's what I was about to say. I will not go to Sacramento.
I'm just going back to Mizzou for a year, because, again, being the 5th, 6th, 7th pick, he's going to make anywhere from $12 to $15 million. If he's the number 1 or 2 pick, it's $24, $25 million. The key to the whole thing is if you come out now, you're 1 year closer to your second contract. And the second contract is where, like,
that's the big one.
Embiid just made $148 million on his second contract.
Right.
Otto Porter.
Well, we saw what Bubba got.
Our guy, he made $106 million on his second contract. So that you want to get to the second contract quicker, but that's my whole point is if you're in a good situation, go ahead and go. But if you're not, why go to Sacramento? Because we've already seen the market really cool for that second contract. Everybody's not getting it. Everybody's not getting that money now. You've got to be a super duper star to get that money now, because we're seeing really good players not get the money.
Right.
So, that's my whole point is I would hate to see him come out and be the sixth pick to Sacramento or to Phoenix or something like that. I mean, it's just a franchise that's going nowhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now you get sucked into they have other good young players that they're kind of committed to already. And are they going to give you the third max deal on that team? I doubt it.
Right.
So it's like you cost yourself money in the short term and the long term. At the beginning of the year, I said there's no way he's coming back, even when he got hurt, because I was like, he's going to be the second, third, fourth pick. But I think if there's teams –
some of the guys got better.
They did, but if there's teams dumb enough to draft Hasheem Thabeet and there's teams dumb enough to draft Johnny Flynn over Steph Curry, there's somebody dumb enough to draft Mo Bamba instead of Michael Porter. There's somebody dumb enough to draft Colin Sexton instead of Michael Porter. And I'm not knocking those guys. They're good players. But, let's just get real. Like, when Michael's healthy, he's a franchise-type player, I believe. And I'm not a GM. I don't have a draft pick. But if I were a GM, there's only two guys, maybe three, that you could even talk to me about. If I was picking somewhere in the top three, there's only three names that you could even say to me besides Michael Porter, and that's Bagley, that's Ayton, and that's Luka Doncic, if I'm saying his name right, the overseas guy. And like I said, Bagley and Doncic, you'd have to talk me into those two because, again, I think you're projecting a lot of potential, and I'm looking at Michael Porter going, he's 6'10", he can shoot, he can handle the ball. I mean, he's going to be a whole lot of what Kevin Durant is. With Ayton,
I agree.
I don't know that, I question that motor a little bit. I've got some question marks with him. With Doncic, if he's just going to be like a better version of Gallinari, I don't know if I want to spend it. I don't know if I want to pass on some version of Kevin Durant for some version of Danilo Gallinari. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And so, again, I'm not a GM, but it's not impossible now that he comes back. At the beginning of the year, I said there's no chance.
And we went from making this thing, Courtney Ramey come to Mizzou, to now we really
Porter
just have a heck of a pitch.
And the thing is, here's the thing. If Michael gets healthy and he's top three, I'll help him pack his bag. I'm not I'm not going,
absolutely.
Hey, stay and play for Mizzou. This is my team. Not
at
all.
The Mizzou dream lineup next year could be Ramey, Watson, Porter, Tillman.
Yeah, and then you still got Geist. You still got Puryear. You still got some other – I mean, I'm telling you, they'd be loaded. They'd be scary good.
Man.
And one of the top 5 teams in the country. I'm telling you right now. So, and if Michael leaves, he's the only one missing from that puzzle.
Yeah, it's still a good team.
Still a team, like I said, a Sweet 16 type Final Four
Elite Eight.
team.
You're going to be on TV a ton.
And I'm just saying, like Courtney Ramey, come to Mizzou. We need you more than Villanova does. We need you more than, Illinois does or some of these other teams that are talking to you. I mean, so just come on home, black and gold, MIZ, Courtney Ramey to Mizzou. And so, and you got your dig in that your bracket is beating mine right now.
Yeah,
and,
that's all. I mean, that's all the whole show is really about.
And Marshall is beating West Virginia right now. So I'll throw that out there too. And so we'll sign off now for real this time.
All right, we're out.
Thanks to the over 10,000 people who have tuned in to our podcast and YouTube channel, and over 100,000 who have checked out the website. There's still time to join the revolution. There's still time to sign up. It's free.
It's a really big bandwagon.
It's a big bandwagon. Hey, and Conzo Martin, we still got room for you too. I ain't mad at you.
Yep. Hey, he's free. He's got free time now.
He's got free time now. As soon as he signs
My
Ramey.
man's been busy. He's been trying to win with water boys and managers.
That's right. He did a great job this year. And so come on the show. Now you got a little free time.
That's right.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll do it again next week.